Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the channel. It has been a minute since my last video. I am still alive. Been very busy with my regular job, and the coins have been very busy as well. Just haven't really taken the time to do anything on YouTube or any other form of social media in a while. And I figured since we have this little 4-coin crossover submission that has just come back, good way to reintroduce to the scene. There is another submission that is right behind this. That'll be here, I think, Monday. This is Saturday, 22nd of March. So Monday the 24th, I believe, will be the next one. And I have to say, the turnaround time was amazing. That's the 4-coin. It says ship, but obviously it's been received. They got it the last day of February. And even though it was a regular tier service, so it's a little bit faster, still turned it around in less than 3 weeks. And the economy submission, they were all submitted together in the same box. They were just checked in a day apart. Is already almost here. It'll be here Monday. So less than a month. I haven't seen those turnaround times since probably 2011. So very impressive. They must be very getting a lot more efficient, or maybe we just hit it at the right time and they're slower, which is possible. Interestingly enough, that regular 3-coin submission up the top, it's being imaged. So we can look at this one. We can't look at the other two because it'll reveal the grades and the pictures, and we don't want to ruin the surprise. But this one, a nice 1889S Morgan dollar, better date, tough date, that I expect to grade hopefully MS62. It's got some pock marks, very small, almost like pin pricks, pinholes, not even. On the cheek a little bit, but other than that, there are no hairlines, no signs of cleaning or damage or environmental damage or anything like that. No funky toning. So MS62 with an outside shot of a 63 was my initial thought. The 78cc is a soft pack GSA that usually the soft packs are circulated coins and the hard packs are the uncirculated. But as we know from the Carson City GSA Morgans in the hard packs, sometimes they list it as circulated when in fact it's uncirculated. The Mint or the GSA, Government Services Administration, would put coins that were heavily bag marked or not necessarily attractive in circulated holders. Those would tend to come back graded on the lower end, 60 through 62. Sometimes the 63 will be in that category as well. And the ones that they reserved for uncirculated were a lot better quality, typically MS64 and up. But that 78cc in the soft pack was sent in the soft pack with the special holder requested, and I expect that to probably grade 61 or 62 with an outside chance of an AU58 grade. So we shall see. The 82cc is another GSA, a hard pack that I thought was a pretty solid MS64. I almost didn't send that one in. It's not really worth it, but anyway, those will be back probably the following week where they're being imaged. Expect them to be encapsulated and finished up by the end of next week. And then this one here, crossed off my name and all that. We will open this up and take a look at those, and then we have a couple other things to round out the video. I am not Irish, by the way, but it's near St. Patrick's Day, or it just passed, so we figured we would put that down. Be back shortly. So we're back with the box. As you can see, it's still taped. There's 4 coins in here. I've only used the crossover service a couple times in the last 5 years, and we are 8 for 8 going into this. If I remember correctly, the 4 coins in here are an 1880S AccuGrade that was graded MS65, and I put a minimum cross grade of 64 because I really didn't think it was, thought it was close. but I think they're pretty tough on that date where it's such a common date and there's so many nice ones. I thought it was a pretty surefire 64, so we'll see what happens with that. There is another AccuGrade, an 1881 cc. Better date, that was an MS63, and I asked that one to be crossed at grade or leave it in the holder. I thought the AccuGrade holder would be more valuable than PCGS MS62 or worse. Not only that, but I think it's a 63. There's some marks on the cheek. That coin was actually purchased back, I want to say 2021, might have been a year before that, from a very well-known YouTube coin personality from Tucson, Arizona. I'm sure you can probably guess who, but that was a private purchase that we did. I believe we had an Instagram conversation, and he knew I liked the AccuGrade holders, and he was kind enough to offer it to me first, so that was nice, or at least I assume first, somewhere along the lines. The next coin is a 1881S, not a PCI green, but a hallmark holder that looks like a PCI green, and that was MS64. I requested that to be crossed at grade, and then there's a CC, 83 or 82, I don't remember, in a funky holder, and I don't remember the name. Hopefully it's in here. I've shown pictures of that before, and if I can find them, I'll attach it into the video at this point. Nice toning, MS65 on that holder, definitely not a 5. I think I requested that to be crossed as a 4, and even that was probably close. So if any of these do not cross, that's probably the one, because it might be a 3. So anyway, we will take a look, and I actually have brought out the light box. I thought maybe the light box will yield some better quality images. So I'll set that up in 1 second. Invoice, we don't want to really see that. So there's the ADS AccuGrade, 81cc AccuGrade, 81S, okay, NCI, the 83cc NCI, and a 65. So, and then the minimum grade to cross, 64, 64. Oh, I did put 62, that's interesting. And 64 on the, so I went down a grade on all of them except for the hallmark. I thought I left the 81cc to cross at grade. Anyway, let's see what happens with this light box. And if it doesn't work, we will shift it back over to the regular setup. All right. So before this is still taped. And we'll be cutting that and see what's going on. Hope everyone's doing well. Winter is releasing its stubborn claws for most of us. Up here in the Northeast, it's still quite cold, in the 30s. We've had a few nice days, and the first day of spring was yesterday. So hopefully we are on the upswing with that. Threaded tape. I'm gonna cut them all. I think we got it this time. We got 4 slabs, and we got 4 of these. It looks like they all crossed. S. This was that NCI. And we had this. And we have this. So we shall see what PCGS thought of these coins. my very fancy grade concealer here. And it looks like we'll start with the ADS and the AccuGrade. Former AccuGrade 65. You can see it's pretty clean in terms of surface quality. Some breaks in the luster there, or whatever you, breaks in the middle. But really, not a whole lot of bag marks. A little bit cloudy. I think that's that cloudiness, you know, certainly is going to hold it down. You know, it's hard to call a coin a gem when it's cloudy like that. Of course, that's also an effect on the light box. When you look at it in hand, you don't really see that nearly as pronounced as it looks. So, you know, is it a 64? It has to be at least a 64. So with the minimum cross kind of self-revealing, not as much of a guessing game as with other grading, but I don't think there's any way it's any higher, so I'll say it's a 64. And indeed it is. I just thought in the case of this coin, it really wasn't much better than that, and I didn't see it, you know, being any more liquid in the AccuGrade 65 holder, so thought it would do better in a PCGS holder, and there it is. We will go to coin number 2. And I think this is the CC, those marks on the cheek there. You see what I mean? That's what I thought may keep it down. But other than that, there's not a lot of contact marks, and it's kind of on that cusp of 62, 63. Again, it looks cloudier than it really is. And this light box isn't the greatest, a cheap one. Not a lot of contact marks. Average luster. Average eye appeal, in my opinion. So, I don't know, 62 is very likely. So, we'll say 62. Yeah, well, they did cross that grade, so I knew it was close. I'm happy to see that, actually, because I thought it was more a 63 than a 62, if that even makes any sense. But that's cool. That's a good one. It's a much better date for as far as CCs go. And then we have the Hallmark 64 with some nice little bit of proof-like surfaces on the obverse. Not really enough to give it that PL designation. Certainly, if I remember, the reverse wasn't. Yeah, it's almost there. I wouldn't expect it to be a proof-like, but I don't know. It's hard to tell by looking at it in that light box. It's pretty close now that I'm looking at it outside the light box here, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't see it being, I mean, it's close actually. 64 plus wouldn't surprise me. Go on a thin limb and say 64 plus. I'll say 64 plus just to be daring. Okay. Should have stuck with my initial instinct, but it looks better. Curious to see what, if they, well, obviously they didn't think it was that close because they didn't plus it, but it's a pretty fine 64. Really nice luster on this one. They definitely when they go, before they go through the grading process, I don't want to say they restore them, but there's definitely some element of restoration because the surfaces come back almost like they've been steam cleaned. Definitely not an acetone soaking so much, because I do that on a lot of them, but obviously not these because they were slabbed. Anyway, some of you might know what I'm trying to say here. Words aren't really coming out right, but here's the 83cc from the NCI. And we had a min grade of 64. I don't see it going any higher. Lovely toning, both sides, especially the reverse. Very attractive. Very pretty coin. Nice luster. Couple marks up there by In God We Trust. Couple marks on the cheek. Probably, a very middle road 64, in my opinion. Wow, they gave it a 65. Whoa. Now that's a shock. I did not expect that. That's interesting. They might say that the toning carried it or kicked it up a notch. And eye appeal plays 10% of the grade. If you look at the breakdown, 30, 30, 30, 10, contact mark, surface preservation, luster, strike, and eye appeal being on the short end of that stick. But pretty cool. Was not expecting that. That might explain why the invoice was higher than I expected, since they take the 1% grade premium. All right, well, that's those four. We do have 20 regular submission coming back, which I can't look at them because they'll see the grades. Going from memory, I know there was an 1862 Indian cent. There was a couple standing Liberty quarters, 1917. There might have been a 17D, but I don't think so. A bunch of silver dollars in there. We're going to have to kind of hold off. I want to show a few things that I'm getting ready to submit. If you want to stick around on the video, we'll go through these very quickly. These are going into PCGS next week. Here we have a Cleveland $50. And I think it's probably a 64. I don't think it's enough for a 65. There's a couple of marks. Nice original looking coin, nice luster. 1936 Cleveland. I've got a few of these already. Attractive coin. I have that as a 64. We have this lovely toned Bay Bridge. Again, I think it might be another 64. San Francisco Bay Bridge, another 1936. In the middle of the Depression. Mid-30s, not a lot of coins struck. That 32 through 35. A lot of absent mint marks or absent dates in a lot of the series. Tough Mercury dimes, 1931. You don't see any 32 or 33 Mercury dimes. Quarters, nothing in 1933. Just the 1933 S, Walking Liberty half. So a lot of voids in that middle of the 30s decade. Here we have an Alabama $50 that I think is a 64 again. So we're expecting this 1920. We're expecting all three of these commems that we just looked at to come back 64. We've got some average run-of-the-mill Morgans going in. Nothing special here on this one. There's a couple coming up that'll be better. This is an 85 with a little bit of toning. Probably a 64. Again, nothing spectacular, just something we've put aside. Here's another couple. Another toned 1898. Oh, sorry, 98 all, even more common. 63 on those two, I would expect. Pretty toning. A little bit of reflectivity on this 010. Not so much on the back. Definitely nowhere near enough mirrors, but a nice sharp strike, a nice quality that I would say is pretty much a lock 64 on that one. We'll see. There's a 1900 O. I have it a 63. Again, nothing special whatsoever. We're getting to the better ones. This 97S does have some reflectivity on both sides. It's pretty close. See if we can get a better representation. A little bit of a better date. A little bit cloudy, but again, that's the light box more than anything. This one is 50-50 on PL. I would say they're being pretty strict. It looks much better outside the light box in terms of mirrors. Here we have another shot PL, this 87, that I think is definitely enough for a proof like. Sorry for that piece of debris. 63, 64. And we have another one with a stronger PL, this 86. This one's bordering on deep mirror. I think this one's a lock proof like. Attractive. Should be a solid 64, I think. A little bit of contact marks in front of the face. And we have this one. Another one with very nice mirrors, nice strike, nice surface quality. Should be another PL, this 81S, as common as the day is long if you work. And then, just for a little show and tell, I've probably shown a few of these, but we'll show them again, anybody who hasn't seen them. A&A holder collector, this beautiful 1840 O in a perfectly graded XF45 seated $50 with lovely toning. Not going anywhere, never would be crossed, not for sale, just for show and tell, if you will. Better date 27D piece dollar. This was snagged off a proxy bid auction last year. Looks like it was originally in a Great Collections auction, but that's not where it was bought. It's bought from proxy bid. Nice coin, good date. Here's a couple more. That's a weak 78, 7/8. Not so sure about the PL either. Very attractive though. There's no doubt about it. Another one, borderline PL. This one was not considered PL at the time by Annex. Pretty close. Pretty stunning. Conservatively graded at 62. Very pretty coin. Hard to deny. Couple more. Well, maybe more than a couple more. A few more. 88O. Better date for PL. Definitely PL. With those clean mirrors, you could shave, not miss a whisker. Lovely toning around the rim. Nice mirrors, nice frost. Definitely nice frost on the Eagle, not as frosty on the Obverse, but still lovely. Another PL and a slightly better date that again is a little on the borderline side by today's standards. There is reflectivity, but that 10 o'clock section up around the EP and E pluribus and up till about noontime, very close. Might not get it. If it were to be cracked, we don't have to worry about it. That debate will never come to fruition as long as I am in custody of this one. It's not about the holder or the suffix or any of that, stickers. It's all about the quality and the eye appeal of the coin as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't matter if it's raw, slabbed, stickered, until you go to sell it, of course. 1899, better date. Very attractive. No PL on this one. There's no controversy or debate. Just lovely toning. 1899 low mintage. I mean, I won't call it a key date, just a better date. You'll see some people selling these, calling it a key date. We're writing, you know, on the 2x2 key date, 16 different pluses and various adjectives, trying to upsell it. And then one of my prized possessions that was acquired off an eBay auction from a guy I know pretty well. At 87.0 is a tough date, let alone in this kind of a grade. As far as PL, I mean, the toning has really kind of taken over the coin probably since it was graded. It's definitely got reflective quality, but the fact that the toning is so thick, I don't know how they would, I mean, if I was going to guess, especially if I sent this in raw, it probably wouldn't get it. But it has that quality. Maybe it's not showing through here, but it's still an incredibly attractive coin, and not far from a 65. I don't really see any blemishes. Not a date you see very often in this higher grade either. So PL or not, and look at the breast feathers. Look how sharp they eat in the neck feathers. This date is very well known for being very softly struck, and above the ear it's a little bit flat, but I mean, this is like 95% struck. Just a wonderful example in my opinion. And then just a couple more. These are going to get cracked out and sent in. Nothing super special here. These are in like homemade slabs. I like the 82 P date. It's kind of a sleeper. Probably a nice 64. Can't really tell until I get it out of the holder, which is going to happen this weekend. Then we have another 82O that has a little bit of reflective. Not really showing here. I got two 82Os to come back proof like in the last submission. One was a 61, one was a 63, and this one's close. Again, it might not be quite apparent on the video here, but I guess you just have to trust me when I tell you it looks a little bit stronger outside this light box as far as reflectivity goes. And then this 82S, no reflectivity here, just solid 64 with some nice toning. And then to finish off the day, we have this Paramount 87 that I'm debating whether or not to send in, take out of the holder. It's not a Redfield, it's just a Paramount with some okay toning. Nothing spectacular. Nice. Looks like the Annex small holder toning, to, you know, in terms of the colors and the pattern. A little bit irregular down here, but I think it'll look better once you get it out of the plastic. But again, I leave these in. I know a lot of people like those Paramount or Redfield holders. Speaking of Redfield, here we have this 1886 S, better date, already graded by NGC as an MS62, and probably accurately so. A little streakiness there. Those are not bag marks, but those are almost like, you know, not scrapes. If it was scraped, it details it, but luster breaks is what I call those. But there's really no contact marks. It would be interesting to see if PCGS gave it anything different than a 62, but I'm fine with it as a 62. And then one final coin, another Redfield. This is a 1889 S. Same grade. What do you think? Accurate? I think so. I'm fine with it in those holders. 62. Could be a 3 on another day, but you know, the general consensus, NGC softer on the grading. I agree with that as a rule. Not always. I think nobody gets it right 100% of the time, and I think those demonstrate that they can be fairly conservative. And in that case, I think they were accurate. So now that we have gotten back or seen the grades on those crossovers, we're going to go ahead and take a look at them here. In the app real quick before we wrap up the video. So here's the 1880S. See what true views look like. We do miss Phil Arnold, that's for sure. All right. Oops, it's hard to do this through the camera. Oh, in order to get the singles, we have to go to the... I wish they wouldn't have done that, but you have to go to the web browser to pull up the single coin view, this obverse reverse view. 81cc, crossed at grade. So this one crossed, the only one that crossed below grade was the 80S. That went from a 65 to a 4. This was a 63, crossed at grade. This was a 64, crossed at grade, which I think was close to a 5 the more I looked at it. Look how clean those fields are. Oh, now we get the obverse and reverse. Isn't that interesting? But not with the others. I mean, that's a lovely... Oops, didn't mean to do that. Very, very nice. Really nice. Oh, and then last but not least, this one, 65, is definitely a bit generous. And they had it as a min grade of 64. So it's good to see that you don't necessarily influence them. You often wonder if you influence them. But it's not coming up, or is it? Oh, there it is, sorry. Yeah. Very nice. But on the form, NCI MS65, we had it as a 64. And that declared value is strictly PCGS price guide. That's not real world. I mean, maybe it's closer to it now that it's in a 65 holder. But yeah, speaking of that, let's see what CoinFax has and the difference between a 64 and a 65. Sorry about that. So 64, that's where the 475 came from. As we can see, the real world's over $100 lower, between 3 and 380. But a 65 jumps up a couple $100. See, the 65 is that's the 475. They need to adjust some of these price guide numbers. But anyway, we'll call it a day there. We're just under a half hour. We're trying to keep these videos shorter. And it's the first one in 3 months, so please let me know what you think. Any questions, comments, feel free to leave them below. Let's leave the hate outside the door. If you have nothing nice to say, better to not say anything at all. Mama once said, it's one thing to offer constructive criticism or disagree with things. If you do it the right way, we're all about it, because I can't stand people who are yes men or yes women, to be honest. I'd rather have you tell it to my face, or, be honest and not, beat around the bush with things. But it's one thing to troll versus, going about it the right way. So if you like the video, feel free to leave a like or leave a comment, and we'll have another video coming up probably next week when that other submission, or those other 2 submissions, come back, and we'll be sending these out next week. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good one.